Boom, we're back. Part 2 of the Genesis rebuild. Currently, the head is off of the Genesis. We got the head gasket getting ready to go on. This is how the pistons are looking, the top. Head is sitting over there in the garage. We're gonna clean that in a bit and show you guys that. The lifters are here. But we did just get back yesterday from picking up a new turbo. This is the new one. As you can see, this is the old one with the oil and stuff, and the wheel was all messed up like I showed you in part 1. And then this one is a lot better. The blades look better, spins good, and the shaft is not wiggling like the last one. Not nearly as much. You can see the shaft in this one is completely done up. So yeah. We're going to be replacing the turbo for sure. And then in the last video, I did show you guys that we cracked the front cover right there. So I was also able to source one of those from the same guy. And he gave me a bunch of bolts too. So love the community for that. We can finally get back to finishing this build. Getting it done and done quick. Looks like the thing can jump too. So as you can see, this gasket covers in a lot more places that the other one didn't cover. Like it comes all the way over here, around here, and then you get the rings around the pistons to really get a good seal. And I'm not going to use the copper spray on this gasket. I really don't use it in general unless like it's some crazy thing. Like if it's an OEM and it's within spec, we're going to not need that. You usually won't need that copper gasket maker spray. So yeah, we're just gonna get the head back on this joint and start bolting this thing down. Our surfaces are cleaned and prepped. I don't know if you can see, it's clean under there. So yeah. We're gonna press right onto the dowels pins right there. You're good, my finger. There we go, there it is. It's sealed up. Beautiful. Beautiful. And you can see the gasket seals where the head is and not where it's not. So we have the lifters here. We're getting ready to put these back in. And we're gonna clean them off and then give them a good, a good clean through here and make sure that the inside doesn't have any gunk in it. Then we have some gear oil. Dip it in the gear oil. Make sure it gets all up in there. Lubricated, and then we're going to drop each lifter back into their original position. And then you confirm that they slide up and down. That should be good. So that's the lifters installed. And then we're gonna do the cams after we've reinstalled this bearing right here. Make sure you put this bearing back in. That bearing I was talking about, no need to replace it. We're gonna oil it up, as you should. We just do with everything.
Every engine part.
That's just the best way to do it. And then you wanna make sure that the holes are lined up with the 2 holes that are on the head. You don't wanna miss that. The 2 holes line up like that, and then you just press it in. Make sure it's flat with the head, and that's that. And then you should be ready to install your cams. They should be where we left them. Alright, so the cams are installed. We torqued these bolts down in the last clip you guys saw to 9 foot-pounds on the front ones, and then these 12 mils are 12 foot-pounds. Sorry about the noise, my brothers are vacuuming out the new Honda. So we have the cams here, and to time the engine you have these little dots here and here on both cams, and you align those with the gold marks or orange on a fresh timing chain with the dots on those points 1, 2, and 3. You align that and then just put the tension on it. Simple as that for the timing chain. So I did measure this timing chain to make sure it was still in spec. As you can see, this joint is tight, so we don't have it. I didn't need to replace that. I checked the guides as well to make sure that they were good, and they are. So we didn't have any like scoring or anything like that. So I oiled them up, put the chain back on, timed it correctly, cranked the engine a bunch of times to get it back in timing. I cranked it over and over and over until it got back into the original place. Now we're gonna put the front timing cover on with some RTV. Just finished cleaning off the front plate here, so the mating point surfaces are as clean as possible. We do have this nicely fresh painted timing cover that we're gonna put on. I put the wrinkle valve cover coating on it that I did for that Honda, so just had some extra paint laying around, so we did that. Came out pretty good. So we're gonna install that next. So we're gonna be sure to RTV around this hole, and this one, and then around this side and this side. This is a thin bead. You don't need to go crazy on the RTV. Again, clean surface that you want completely cleaned. I used a knife and cleaned off with the blade, and then did the same thing over here and clean that off as well. We only need 1 bead, not 2. I see people put a bead on here and a bead on there. Not necessary. Just 1 thin line here, thin line around all 3 of the holes here, and then we're gonna press it on and start to bolt it on with the bolts that we have in the valve cover. I put them in the valve cover because I have the valve cover bolts in another spot, so. And we've got the front cover, timing cover, bolted on. You can see nice squeeze of the RTV there on both sides all the way around. So that's how you know you got a good seal, because it's squeezed out on both sides, the front and the back. So we got the 10s tight. There's a 12 here, the 2 up here tight. And then I went ahead and put the idler pulley on. It's all rusty now because it accidentally got left out, but that shouldn't be a big deal. So next I'm gonna be putting on the valve cover, prepping that to go back on, get a new gasket and these new gaskets here, and then that's gonna seal on here. New valve cover gasket installed. I did some pulling of all the RTV and stuff of the old one. You can see it's like old, and this part is all like brittle. Replaced it with this spongy one. It's taller, so it's definitely gonna seal than the bolts. And then the valve cover gasket as well. Put a thin bead of RTV in there, and then press the gasket in on top. Works well. All OEM parts, so it's just going in real easy. So we're gonna get this bolted onto the head. I probably should have turned that fan off earlier. I didn't realize that you guys probably couldn't hear, but it's off now. We got the Genesis looking really good now. Intake manifold is fully bolted on. I bolted on the fuel rail as well, and then started doing the vacuum lines up here. Also threw on a coat of that wrinkle black on this front line in front because it had some rust on it from before, and you're gonna be able to see that very clearly. This, again, I couldn't like really fix up, but everything else is looking really clean. Top of the motor there. We're gonna start bolting all this stuff back in. I got the wires like for the fuel injectors here, but I'm gonna bolt this wiring here and then start doing this top and working my way back this way. So when we were taking our stuff off, we worked this way and then that way, and then we're doing it in reverse back. You still find a ways around. It's the reverse of how we still. Alright, so I just transferred all the lines from the old turbo onto the new one. Not like the hard lines, but the soft lines. and I'm gonna use this new oil line that came with the new turbo. So yeah, we're gonna just throw this in, studs, put a gasket on it, and then throw it in. I did put new bolts on the back here because the old ones were rusted, but yeah, that's all. And the turbo is new. I showed you guys in the other clip. Wheel spins and it's a lot better. It's balanced compared to the old one. You just gotta remember to tighten these because the dude did loosen these. So yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but the gasket that we got with the OEM kit, didn't fit, so we got a brand new gasket out of the trash can. I know it's the old one, I'm joking, but it wasn't leaking before, so we're just gonna throw it back on and hope that it doesn't leak. If it does, it won't be a big issue to just take it off, put on a new one, and continue on. But we're carrying along here. Again, looks pretty good. I showed you guys the spark plugs and ignition coils got installed. Also painted this little bracket right here. I'm just kind of painting all the ones that really don't suit my eye. If it's fine, then like this one, I'll leave it, but the ones that like are really bad, I'll just paint. And they look better, so yeah, just little things. And I'm gonna throw this turbo on and let's get it on from there. We'll be putting on the intercooler and a radiator after that. Alright, so now that the turbo is bolted on, we were able to put the power steering pump back on because we can't get to that manifold stud when the power steering is on, so we did that. And then I'm gonna tighten up these turbo lines and then start running vacuum lines as well as, you know, plumb the power steering pump. So let me do the power steering pump first and then I'll do the other wires as well. Okay, coolant hose is installed. Radiator's going in, but I did lose these pieces right here that bolt the radiator in at the top. I mean, it's pretty firm because the hoses are holding it, but I want to find those. I'm gonna look in my garage and look for them, but otherwise everything else is coming together nicely. I'm getting ready to put the oil pan back on. The turbo's here. I ran all the lines to the gate, blow-off valve, and turbo compressor housing, and plugged up this management over here. The lines are ran as well, vacuum lines, and again the serpentine belt is all done. You can refer to Gen Racer to get that serpentine belt diagram and all the torque specs for everything. This is how it's starting to look, coming together nicely. Alright, so we are pretty much finished with this head swap. I'm gonna get a startup video for you guys once we get that exhaust bolted back up. I'm actually gonna need to replace that because this flex pipe did break. It's just rusted out completely, so I'm just gonna have to get a new down pipe. But the O2 sensor housing is there and bolted on and ready for that. Everything else is there. We're gonna add some oil to this thing, fill it up with coolant, bleed it out, and then we should be ready to, you know, start it. Or we'll be bleeding it, but it'll be the first start and run with the new head gasket. Missing the ram intake, the like snorkel part that goes right here. I have it in the car. I'm gonna throw that on in a minute, but everything else is in, looking clean and crisp. Really liking that front valve cover, the front timing cover. Looks real good in there. The wrinkle black, and then the little lines, the little accents. Looks good. Alright guys, we got like 40 minutes left on the card. And we know this is going to be a long one, but the engine is done. I've gotten everything buttoned up, everything except that pipe that I did mention in the last clip. That pipe isn't there, so we're kind of dumping out of the O2 sensor housing. But I need to start the car. We need to make sure that everything works before. I did order an ISR downpipe, so we will have that in a couple of days. But I want to make sure that everything we've done is good. So we're going to crank it over real quick, give her a nice start. Let me mention that I did crank the motor over a couple times previous to this clip to get oil into the turbo and like build pressure around. Also fuel to the engine. All the lubricant oil that we sprayed is burning off. Sounds pretty good though. Alright, so as you guys just saw, it runs good. We timed it correctly. She sounds like she's in time, firing well, no misfires. Haven't gotten to rev it up yet because I do want to get the exhaust piece before we start revving on it. I do have a little bit of coolant in. I topped up with the oil, so that was all good. Prior to that, looked around, no leaks. All the RTVs seem to have done its job and sealed completely around. That valve cover is nicely sealed as well. And no leaks from that area either. So I think we've got this thing checked off and done. So I'm gonna thank you guys for watching, staying tuned through part 1 and part 2. I'm not sure if I split it up into part 1 and part 2 or if it's just one really long video, but I'm gonna thank you guys for staying tuned. If you are interested in buying this car, definitely message me on Instagram. It's for sale, not on sale, so it will be for a price. Let me know if you guys are interested. So yeah, that's it. Ben's over here working on his Honda. How do you feel, bro? Is it settled in yet? Is it feel like your car now?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
And again, this is my old car, Honda Accord. We got just dropped off the rears to get new tires mounted, and I also got new fronts on the way for the Drift Z and the G35. So we're gonna get new tires, not new wheels, just tires. For the fronts so that we can grip when we're drifting, and he's getting a rear one because he didn't have one. It was all blown out, so we're solving that issue. And then yeah, that's what we're doing today. I mean,
Maybe go look at my car.
and we may be going to look at another car.
For me, yes guys. Yes guys.
Another car.
It's a surprise.
We'll give you a hint. Inline 4 turbo. Our usual. We're sticking to our usual.
Yeah.
All right, catch you guys in the next one. Maybe revealing another car.
Yes.
So
maybe have a car reveal coming up for you guys.
So we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.